there's a lot of teams that we're going to be engaging, and the platform is going to multiply 100 times. We have currently about 20 teams building on Passage right now, hosting their communities on Passage. And at least in the first stages of the closed beta, our goal is to bring in about 200 teams. So that's just a 10x right there in terms of the total number of users. But in terms of a total number of creators, I should say, the number of users is infinite because those teams who come into the closed beta can bring in as many people as they want, right? The only people who have to apply to be in the closed beta are the creators setting up events. But then once you're in the platform, you can set up your event and bring in whoever you want, right? So that's going to be a really cool opportunity to see just how far this can spread.
Brought to you by Blue Collar Crypto. Scooping for blockchain, equip you with the skills. You can go to the top, man. Presented by Blue Collar Crypto. It's easy to learn. You can master the cosmos and make an upturn. Let's go. 5 stars for the show. Yes, you
Let's
already
go.
know.
Stoked to be here with you, Phil. Excited to talk a little bit more about Passage and what we're doing.
Awesome, man. Yeah, thank you for agreeing to jump on this interview with us, man. We are super excited, huge Passage fans. We just love everything you guys are doing over there. The tech is amazing. The NFTs are amazing. We got huge news coming up for you guys that we're excited for y'all. I know you guys are doing the MIT hackathon we're going to get into.
Yes.
NFT dating. Yeah. What brought you into the blockchain community?
Yeah, totally. So my name is Lex. It's been about 7 years that I've been kind of in this space, specifically in kind of like virtual production, 3D design, things like that. I started our studio in 2017. So 8 years now. My goodness. We ended up doing some really cool work with like Warner Brothers, Red Bull, Marvel, Disney, doing different areas of virtual production, 3D design, just some really cool interactive experiences physically. So like physical events and stuff like that. Of course, naturally over the years, as we saw, the response to all the COVID insanity and people doing really lame attempts at virtual experiences, we really felt like we needed to like make something that was better, make something more human, make something more interesting and interactive. We ended up building out Passage as an early prototype for some of the clients we'd worked with before. Our first pitches were directly to Warner Brothers. We did some really cool tests in like a virtual Batcave theater for Batman with DC. Yeah, it was a really cool iterative process. Everybody who jumped in really did have like a more personal experience. We knew we were onto something because people's response was just so different than what we were seeing with other applications or the typical formula, which is like a live stream and a chat, right? This was very unique. So then lo and behold, I would say we started doing some larger events with some corporate clients. So Amazon, Capitol Records, Scooter Braun, American Girl. Then from there, we wanted to make this available to anybody to use because we'd been kind of setting up Passage events as a service, and we wanted to turn this into a platform. And I was also getting educated on the blockchain ecosystem at the time. It was probably end of 2020 that I started getting more into the blockchain technology. My first real foray into blockchain, I got eyes on Akash pretty early on. And I really loved what they were doing because since we'd been in this app development space for the last few years, pushing Passage forward, I could see the need for better access to that infrastructure, right? The whole compute infrastructure. I immediately saw the value of something like Akash. So, stalked Greg for a while, got connected with him, and through that learned more about the Cosmos ecosystem. And that's what kind of brought us here, and we've been iterating in this space for 3 years now, going on 4 years. I was just talking to CryptoCito actually, and he was mentioning that like we had first connected in August of 2021. So we're going on almost 4 years of building in this space, and haven't looked back since.
Awesome. So tell me about the team. You have a big team, small team?
Little team, tiny team, hardcore team of absolute hustlers. So right now, the core team we have, really, there's the original studio team that kind of brought Passage to life. And then we kind of segmented so that we now have the product team, which is the Passage team, focused on building the platform and the application. And then we have the studio team that supports in different areas when we need 3D content or connections to clients, things like that. helping to educate people on Passage and create content for Passage, things like that. But our team is very, very scrappy and efficient. We have a few full-time developers. Our CTO, Mike, probably everybody knows about Mike because at some point he's touched on every area of the blockchain marketplace, the application, and he leads a few other developers in building out the core features for the application. Then we have Ryan, who's our core product guy. He's in Unreal Engine every single day. Like our whole team, even people who aren't developers are builders, right? In one way or another. And so always having our hands on the process. We don't have anybody who's like a manager or a executive, right? In the strict sense, I built this world that we're in now, actually. So like even myself as one of the executives, we always have our hands somewhere in the product, right? Building things for each area of the product. So a lot of us are in Unreal Engine, or for instance, Brianna, who's our chief of comms, she's constantly involved in kind of like the web development process for our communication on the Passage blog or the socials. So like we have a very technically oriented team that is just really strong in actually creating stuff, right? Nobody who's just kind of like a paper pusher or there's no fluff at all. We're an extremely lean, hardworking team where, but we probably have about 10 full-time employees and pretty tight knit right now. So we got lean, especially throughout the bear market, just never stopped building.
Okay. So tell me about like Passage in general. What problem is it exactly trying to solve? Is it trying to replace Zoom as like a decentralized Zoom? Or is it more for, because I seen a video not too long ago where you guys were advertising how to create a 3D model of an airplane. And on the airplane itself, you kind of walk through and you got to see the different features of the airplane. So it could be used as a sales tactic as well.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Like, what is y'all's core mission, like the value? Like, vision?
100%. Our core, vision here is to make virtual more personal. I think that the biggest part of it is this idea of being able to make the virtual experience more human. But then in terms of the people that we've seen who are most impacted by this, they are virtual builders. So people who are building games, people who are building virtual events, people who have virtual audiences, whether they're selling virtually or whether they have a virtual community. So content creators, for instance, there's just a really deep ecosystem, a deep, economy of people buying and trading value virtually, right? Whether that's information and education. We got a lot of educators who are in the Passage closed alpha, who teach courses inside Passage, whether it's for 3D or other educational workflows. So, but it's that whole trade in communication virtually. So the core synergies we see in people who are excited about Passage, the people that we're kind of pushing this to, are people who have a virtual team. So they're collaborating remotely in some way or another. They're building something virtual. So whether it's a game, a virtual events, a virtual communities, virtual content, like content creators, and then they probably have a virtual audience of some kind, right? So those three things, right, are kind of the key synergies for people on Passage. And it does cover a pretty large group of verticals, right? Everyone from like content creators and educators to businesses doing remote sales and things like that, remote collaboration for work. But that's something that we're kind of refining throughout our closed alpha, and going into the closed beta at the end of this quarter, we'll have a much better idea of, who are the people who are most primed to leverage Passage in their workflows, right? We've got a pretty good general thesis now and are just continuing to narrow in on who are the early adopters of Passage.
What do you think your key features that makes Passage stand out in the market?
Yeah, that's a great question. The biggest thing is just there's no other platform that offers this kind of accessibility with this kind of immersion, right? So, one click to get in here. You get in from any browser and you can have this face-to-face experience in a high-end virtual environment on Unreal Engine 5, right? So best graphics in the world, best possible, rendering experience, the most immersion, the most real personal feeling of being face-to-face without actually standing in front of somebody. And yet it's one click away from anybody at all. I mean, that's really the pitch in a nutshell, is one click access to the most high-end immersion possible, right? And, that's the core of it. It's the core of Passage. So we've been driving towards for the last 4 years, 5 years now, goodness, is really this idea of being able to take a high-end experience and bring it to everybody, right? You shouldn't have to have, a beast gaming computer to have these kind of immersive, personal, virtual experiences. So that's the key. That's the core. That's kind of what we've been pushing, is just one-click access to a high-end experience. In addition to that, there's lots of other cool things. I mean, obviously, the whole concept of decentralization, right? Building blockchain ownership into this virtual environment is just a no-brainer, because obviously, if you're going to have a virtual world, you want to have verifiable virtual ownership as well, right? And the blockchain is a perfect way to give people that autonomy. But really, the blockchain preserves value. It doesn't create value, right? What creates value is the experience. And then if people want to preserve that value, the blockchain adds that support. And that's the beauty of passages. It's not just another way to convey value. It is valuable in and of itself. It gives us a tool for connecting better.
Now, you talked about one-click entry. Now, whenever you sent me the link to enter this world, it was literally click a button, type my name, and click join, and I was there. Move around just like you would any kind of a video game that you have on your PC. Arrows button moves, spacebar makes you jump. And I think one of the really interesting features was the further you got away from me, the less I could hear your voice. And the closer you got to me, the more I could hear you.
Yeah. As I start to come back, we can demo this for the viewers, right? Like, there's actually this sense of being like, and Abby, if you stay still and I start to move around, so don't turn. There you go. If you can still tell where I am around the camera here, right? Because you can hear where I am on either side, like if I'm on your left or if I'm on your right. Again, you're hearing where people are, and it is funny. There is this natural inclination to turn as somebody's talking, and you hear them on one side of the other, because that's what we do in the real world. And it's hard to convey sometimes in video. That is the one thing I've heard a lot about Passage, is I'll hear people say, oh wow, they'll get in, and as soon as they get in, they're like, I was not expecting it to be like this. And it's like, well, what were you expecting? You saw the videos. And it's like, I don't know, but the videos don't do it justice.
As soon as you get in and you start walking, you hear the waterfall and you hear the water running from the lake or the waterfall fountain, whatever that was a minute ago. It just gives you like a real world experience. I can see creators building worlds, and, we're literally going from a 2D Facebook page to a 3D virtual world.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's amazing. So you talked about the UI, and the UI is super easy, super to understand. But there's also, I read that you guys are focusing a little bit on mobile. Can you talk more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So mobile support's coming right now. Basically, this is geared for mobile. You can even join these worlds on mobile. There's nothing different about the workflow, because you don't have to download any apps. You don't need any special software. Again, you still just click a link and it opens up in Safari or whatever your mobile browser is. One click, same exact workflow. What we're doing is we're revamping the mobile touch control system. That's it. So it's nothing complicated. It should be done in the next few weeks, most likely, but I'll have some real updates on that shortly. Then people can jump into worlds on mobile right now. It's just that we're updating the touch controls. So you won't be able to navigate around, unfortunately. But point being, this is going to be a super fluid experience across any device, because again, the technology is all the same, right? Your device doesn't have to render it. So you get the exact same graphics on mobile as you do on desktop, laptop, iPad, whatever. It's all the same experience. That's what's really beautiful about Passage. Yeah, and we'll have the update to the mobile controls shortly, so everyone can try that out for themselves.
That's awesome. Now, y'all are in the middle of an MIT hackathon, is that correct?
Yes. So today actually officially kicked off the in-person experience. We've been live for the last couple of days doing a kind of like an early access experience for the hackers, where they could jump into Passage, and we have a 1-for-1 scale recreation of this section of the campus, right? So it's like 2 to 3 kilometers square. It's a huge section of the campus where they're having the hackathon, and there's multiple buildings that they're hosting the hackathon in. So we have several of these interiors built out in Passage, where you can actually walk from one building to the next and go inside these different buildings, which is really cool, because hackers were able to jump into Passage on Monday, for instance, walk around the campus and, several of the relevant buildings that they'll be in. And then they travel to the campus, and they can do that same walk in person, right? So they're able to get familiar with the campus ahead of time, which is just one fun side benefit. But they'll also be doing some sessions inside Passage, some different Q&As and things like that, where the hackers can interact remotely as well as locally on the campus. So that's really fun. It's a really cool collaboration that we've been working with them on for the last few months here. I think we started in around October, ideating on how to leverage Passage for this MIT event.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about like the stack behind Passage. Like,
yeah, totally.
How does it work? How is this possible?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So for one, the biggest factor in our technical stack is Unreal Engine 5. So everything we're seeing here is being rendered in Unreal Engine 5, but it's being rendered in the cloud. And that's another huge component. At this point, we're kind of like pixel streaming experts. Pixel streaming is this whole process of rendering in the cloud and streaming the output to the end user so that the end user doesn't have to worry about the whole rendering process. You don't need a beefy GPU or any specific hardware to be able to run these high-end worlds because it's all being done for you. So we've become, over the last 4 years of building this out, become kind of like pros in that niche of pixel streaming. There's not a lot of people using this kind of technology, especially for these types of interactive experiences. There's lots of people using pixel streaming for like solo experiences, like showcasing car customizations, right? Customizing a product or things like that. But it's still pretty niche. And so there's not a lot of people who are using it for this kind of multiplayer experience. Very, very few people. It can be complicated to set up on the technical side. The infrastructure is complex because you have, the end user who's in the browser, and they're getting a stream from the cloud machine and the cloud GPU that are running it. But then that cloud machine has to coordinate with the other cloud machines of the other players to transmit the video that's coming from the end user on the browser. So you can see how like there's a lot of pieces to network and to get to play nice together. And it's complicated. And that's why it's been, kind of slowly developing. We've had this core concept for, I would say, 3 out of the 4 years. I think it was only our second year building Passage that we switched to Unreal Engine versus web-based rendering and started building out the pixel streaming components. And it only took a few months to get started, but it's been years of fine-tuning, expanding the features. We got a huge upgrade with Unreal Engine 5. We started off with Unreal Engine 4. And yeah, it's been, a long time kind of mastering this workflow and optimizing so it's accessible for everybody. So that's really one of the biggest differentiators for us is this kind of experience that's highly accessible, but highly immersive. So Unreal Engine's the heart behind that, but it's our infrastructure that makes this really accessible for the end user. And for instance, we even have other Unreal Engine builders, other teams who have come to us through the closed alpha. They wanted our help launching Passage, getting Passage in their programs, because they see us as kind of like, experts in the pixel streaming workflow, because it's a complex infrastructure to set up. Even some really high-end teams struggle with this infrastructure. So that's one of the big differentiators on the tech stack. Obviously, on the blockchain side, we're a Cosmos SDK chain. So we have our own validator set for the chain with the Passage marketplace. Over the next couple of months, we're going to see all these pieces come together as we have some of the blockchain integrations connected to the platform for like NFT gating, NFT customizations, and some of these other, NFT worlds, things like that, where people will get to see the platform and the blockchain interact more.
Then you guys also, is it true that you guys are talking with Akash and maybe getting some of the GPU power through Akash and keeping things inside the Cosmos?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So we already have an Akash integration where on the back end, we can launch worlds on Akash GPUs rather than on AWS GPUs, which is the default. And so we jumped in with Greg Osuri from the Akash team and did a little tour of several different Passage worlds, demoing kind of this cloud streaming ability through Akash GPUs. So that's really exciting. That's already running on our back end. As part of our closed beta launch at the end of this quarter, we'll also have the ability for any of our closed beta users to launch worlds on Akash instead of Amazon. So they can try that out, take advantage of some of the lower costs of Akash GPUs and support the decentralized infrastructure.
Now, how do y'all handle data privacy and security, stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, some of that's going to be aspirational. So we would love to incorporate some pieces like Jackal, decentralized storage, and just have some more decentralized components for storage, security, ownership. But right now, what's cool about these streamed environments is that, for instance, if you have a program or a world or an experience that is high security, so for instance, whether it's like government educator or government training, or whether it's just a large enterprise and you need a more secure environment, the fact that Passage is entirely hosted in the cloud and it's streamed from the cloud allows us to have a much more secure environment for teams to build, right? They don't have to distribute program files to the end user, right? Where they could potentially be reverse engineered. There's a lot more opportunity to have control, for builders to have control who are building on Passage, and to have a more secure environment. Also, for instance, because Passage is communicating with the browser, the Unreal Engine instance runs in the cloud, but the end user interfaces with that instance from the browser. It means actually, and this is really cool, as we get into more of the blockchain integrations, users will be able to leverage their normal blockchain workflows for all the blockchain transactions. They don't have to connect their wallet to some third-party application. Will just be through the browser, right? Basically, when you interact with, like, let's say you mint an NFT inside one of these experiences, right? You're doing a treasure hunt and you open up a treasure chest and inside is this exclusive reward, right? And it's an NFT on the blockchain. To claim that or to use your customizations, you would just connect your wallet in your browser just like usual, right? It's all the same plugins. There's no new things you have to download that might be less secure or unfamiliar. And the browser just tells Unreal Engine, hey, they're good for it. Hey, they have this NFT. Hey, they have the permission to do the thing. You can now you can mint that NFT to their wallet, things like that. So you don't have to worry about third-party integrations using your keys on a third-party application, right? So it's more secure in that way as well, because you don't have to have a separate, different workflow for how you're interacting on chain in Passage, because it's all through the browser. So it's the most convenient, not just on user flow side, but also on the security side. You get to keep all your same security procedures. I think it gives people the best opportunity to be just thoughtful about their blockchain workflow on Passage.
So what's been some of y'all's biggest hurdles? Things that you look back on, you're like, man, that really took the wind out of me there, but I'm glad that hurdle's over and we can move on to the next.
Dude, bear market, man. Our first bear market was definitely just rough, right? Understanding the ebbs and flows of the market in blockchain. You hear about it, but until you've gone through it, it can be really tough. And it's only because we have a team that is dedicated to the product, that are born and bred hustlers who work hard and are relentless, that we've been able to get as far as we have, in terms of working through the bear market. Everybody's just been an absolute hero in terms of pushing this thing forward relentlessly. So that's probably been the biggest hurdle, was just, the market conditions. Everything else, the building experience is awesome. There's definitely been, all sorts of technical problems that we've had to solve, because like I said, this is very niche technology. There is no other application like Passage, right? There's maybe one or two that are trying something similar in terms of the pixel streaming multiplayer experiences, but very few that are even trying to do something in the same ballpark, much less there's nothing that's doing exactly what Passage is doing. So it's very unique, which means, we're always solving problems that haven't really been addressed before, but that means we're innovating. So I appreciate that type of thing. And it's the kind of problem I enjoy solving because it's unique.
That's awesome. Now, you guys also have a NFT collection and an NFT marketplace. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yeah, these little faces here, what I'm looking at, and the little circles, those are the actual NFTs?
Yeah, so basically the way it works, we have several different NFT collections on the marketplace now. We've done something like $8 million in volume on the Passage marketplace, even though we're still in alpha at this stage. So, a lot of the people who are interacting with the blockchain are early adopters, who have gotten in on the process, early on in development, whether it's with the Strange Clan collection or the Chihuahuas or the different puck customizations. And those are going to be integrated into the platform this quarter. So now is when we finally get to see the fruition of these different blockchain integrations, where you'll be able to customize your puck with different cosmetics, but also we're working towards being able to swap out the puck for other 3D avatars, right? There'll be different ways where you could actually have your Chihuahua as a companion following you around, or you can be the Chihuahua walking around, right? So there's going to be a lot of fun ways that we can allow people to get creative with the blockchain assets. So that's one of the really exciting parts for me, is seeing this become more personal as people can express themselves through their their community, right? Stoked for the day when we can come in here and everybody's got, a Chihuahua following them around, or they're a Strange Clan Gator or Husky or whatever walking around. And you got some people who are doing the video thing and some people who aren't, right? But if you've got video off, why not be an alligator? Why not be able to express your community and your creative assets?
Thanks. So tell me more about the NFT gating. Those are designed for communities, as communities can allow only certain people that have meet criteria. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So once we go live with the closed beta, where we'll have the NFT gating, we'll be testing that with the community before the beta as well. So point being, people will get their hands on that sooner, but it'll be some of the communities that are already engaged in the Passage platform. So like Strange Clan, Chihuahuas, groups like that. And what they'll be able to do is, for instance, we can have a big Strange Clan event, and you can only get in if you've got a Strange Clan NFT, right? This will be really fun for content creators who could sell their own NFT collections. And then you can jump in and join them for live weekly talks, right? So, we'll do the Cito collection. You'll have to buy that NFT, and then you can join him in exclusive sessions, once a month or whatever. That's the kind of thing where you want people to be able to get into your Passage experience, but you want to make sure that you're prioritizing your community. Having the NFT gating allows people to do that and to monetize their experience as well.
So, are there like partnerships or collaborations that's on the horizon that could impact the growth of Passage?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mentioned the MIT collaboration that we just launched, but we have a number of teams that are building either in the closed alpha or they're building for the beta, where we'll have teams getting involved who are either already building a Passage world now to launch during the beta or during the alpha. There's a lot of teams that we're going to be engaging, and the platform's going to multiply 100 times. We have currently about 20 teams building on Passage right now, hosting their communities on Passage. And at least in the first stages of the closed beta, our goal is to bring in about 200 teams. So that's just a 10x right there in terms of the total number of users. But in terms of a total number of creators, I should say, the number of users is infinite, because those teams who come into the closed beta can bring in as many people as they want, right? The only people who have to apply to be in the closed beta are the creators setting up events. But then once you're in the platform, you can set up your event and bring in whoever you want, right? So that's going to be a really cool opportunity to see, just how far this can spread.
So I guess the major controversy question would be, how do you, in a decentralized world, how do you prevent people from using your product in a way that is against the law, or in a way that could cause harm to someone? Like, how does that work? I know there's no, of course you can always edit this out, but that was kind of like my train of thought there.
No. That's a good question. I mean, for us, a big part of it is just giving creators the tools they need to moderate their own experiences, right? If somebody's being inappropriate, being able to kick people from the experience, being able to mute people or ban people from your experience. We've got moderation tools built in for that. But then also, having the NFT gating is a big part of that, right? Like that way, that people coming in are people who have put money down, who are likely to be part of your community, right? So there's some filtering of just, anybody jumping in off of socials, but there's always going to be some of that. I mean, that's what's cool about Passage, is that it's a personal experience. It feels face to face. And so in the same way that you can't necessarily keep somebody from being profane out in public, right? You might have, somebody, walking down the sidewalk, cussing a storm as you're, walking your kid along. And you're going to have to deal with some of that if you jump into a big event that's totally public with lots of people. You're going to have somebody being silly, right? So some of it will just be, people have to be, thoughtful and mature. And some of it's going to be thoughtful moderation from creators and gatekeeping events that need to be private or need to be more personal for their own community, things like that.
So I can only imagine that when we get out of beta, there's no doubt in my mind that the Cosmos ecosystem and the users are going to absolutely love this, and we're going to not have a single problem getting everything integrated. But what are our steps towards getting the Web2 community into Passage? Like, how do we bring in new users that never heard anything about Cosmos or Bitcoin or blockchain, or they don't know anything? How do we get those users into the Cosmos?
Yeah, I mean, shoot, it's the same way we brought in 150 developers from the MIT hacker community, right? And the beauty is it's dead simple. It's dead simple for end users to get in, right? If you want to create some Web3 utility, you can have an NFT to get into your experience. But at the same time, if you just want it to be open and you want to bring in, a couple buddies who don't know anything about Web3, you can send them a link, a private link, and they can just jump in, right? Just like you did. They just click a link and they're in. So that's the whole reason we made this really accessible, was that our main audience is Web 2 users, right? We want to educate them on Web 3. We want them to be able to take advantage of the Web 3 features where possible. But the goal is 100% aiming for the Web 2 community, because that's just where the most people are, right? And I'm not going to fight for, a little bit of a small pie, right? I want to get a slice of the big pie, which is the 99% of users who have never seen or heard of Web 3, right? So for us, the door to those people is making it accessible. Most of the people who are in our closed alpha right now are Web 3 or Web 2 users. So like studios that are creating virtual events, educators that are doing remote education. These are people who, they get it when we talk about the blockchain stuff, but that's not why they came to Passage, and they didn't understand that stuff before coming to Passage. So I think a lot of the Web 2 users will just get it. And as long as we don't create unnecessary barriers, they'll jump in and it'll be a very unique experience, and they'll bring their friends and family and their businesses into Passage, and boom, that's it right there. It has a very viral opportunity because, you set up an event in Passage and you bring a couple people in and then they love it. And they're like, oh, how did you do this? Right. And then they bring a couple people in, and I think it multiplies very naturally because it is a social experience.
Now, when it comes to creating the world, will there be like a marketplace for that as well? Like, will I be able to go in like I do Unreal Engine's marketplace and be able to download assets? And if there's a premium asset I want, I pay for that. Will there be a marketplace for that as well?
Well, the beauty of it right now is that it is the Unreal Engine marketplace. If you want to build a Passage world, then there are thousands of videos on how to set up levels in Unreal Engine. There are thousands of assets you can grab for free or for cheap off the Fab Unreal Engine marketplace. And that's your Passage world. Done. I mean, this world was built, I dropped in this building on this environment, but the whole Oasis, that whole environment out there was straight off the Fab marketplace, right? I dropped this building on it and customized some of the details, but I set this up in like 2 days, maybe 3 days max, because I was able to take advantage of existing assets, right? So there's an opportunity for people to create something extremely immersive and compelling very quickly because of that Unreal Engine integration and our 100% compatibility with anything on the Unreal Engine marketplace, right? So that's one element of it. We do have our own marketplace, but that's for the blockchain component of things. So that's giving people an opportunity. If people want to create access-based NFTs, companion NFTs, like that's going to be for creators who aren't Unreal Engine builders. What's cool is if you want to set up an Unreal Engine world with all these unique features and customizations, things like that, you could do that by yourself in Unreal Engine, right? You don't need any of our tools or any of our pieces. You just bring in the Passage plugin and build your world, right? That's it. The Passage plugin is very, very simple, and it just connects your world to all of our infrastructure, right, that hosts the world. But if you're not an Unreal Engine builder, that's where we'll have some fun. We're going to have a larger and larger variety of ready-made tools for people to launch, avatar customizations and different avatars and different features for their world. And that's going to be a growing thing over time. So we want to address both users that are not Unreal Engine builders and give people a diverse number of ways to customize the experience for their audience.
So how do we get the Passage tokens? I know you guys are on Osmosis. Is there any place else we can buy the token?
Osmosis and Mexi. Those are the two exchanges. I say that. My apologies. We're also on Astrovault. Those are the three key exchanges right now. I think we do probably the most volume on Osmosis and Mexi. They're pretty similar. Then Astrovault's been an incredible liquidity partner as well. I love the Astrovault team and their model for their LPs, their liquidity providers over there. So definitely check out Astrovault as well, because great way to trade and do so in a sustainable way.
So when a user buys and stakes Passage to the network, besides securing the network, is there anything else we're help doing?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest part of that, we want to create more utility for that over time. The number one utility for Passage is spending it in the Passage platform, right? So over the next quarter, people will be able to, I think in Q2, I don't remember exactly what the roadmap says, but it's either Q2 or Q1 where we're going to enable people to basically pay for streaming hours with Passage. You can already buy assets on the marketplace in Passage, and we'll have more assets available and also more utility for those assets as we jump into the closed beta at the end of this quarter, because then you'll be able to gate worlds with those assets, customize your experience with those assets, fun stuff like that. So that's the main utility of the Passage token is the exchange of value on the Passage platform, right? But then we are going to have some more fun features, whether it's unlocking new features for token stakers, or giving token stakers exclusive cosmetics or things like that. Like, we want to make it a fun, gamified experience for people who do want to engage in the Web3 world, and incentivize people who may be Web2 users who don't know about the whole blockchain technology. We want to incentivize them to learn more, right? So there will be more ways that we leverage the token. But the first goal is just completing this loop in the blockchain integrations where you can leverage on-chain assets inside the virtual experience. That's the number one piece that we're headed towards. And then we'll have all sorts of other fun utility beyond that.
Oh, that's awesome. So how do we find you?
Yeah. So the best way to follow Passage is on X, and by X I mean Twitter.
And does it take for a minute?
I know. I hate calling it X. At Passage.io on Twitter, and also if you go to the Twitter, or if you go to Passage.io, our website, then you can find our Discord as well, and we're always available there to answer questions. We do weekly hangouts in Passage, and you can get access to those through the Twitter or the Discord. Those are Thursdays at 11 a.m. Eastern. Yeah, and then apart from that, you can find the white paper on the website if you want to understand more about the blockchain structure and kind of what we're trying to create with this platform, our vision for all this. And you can always follow me as well on Twitter, because, I share my thoughts and hopes and dreams at Lex Avellino on the Twitters.
Is there anything I missed, Lex? Is there anything that you wanted to add?
No, man, that was a blasty blast, and I really appreciate you taking the time. We should end by gallivanting into the water, because there's an underwater experience if you head outside.
I think my computer needs to catch up.
Oh, you're good.
That's great. It's frozen. There it goes.
There you go. Yeah. So if you jump over these chairs.
Whoop. Underwater.
Yeah, underwater, it's all echoey.
It's very interesting. Hey, I can imagine someone setting up a world with NFT gating and having a sitting around playing poker. You know what I mean? A bunch of people just sitting around playing cards, playing some spades.
We've already had people do like Dungeons and Dragons sessions inside of Passage, and there's a lot of fun ways that people can connect remotely through Passage, for sure. And it creates just a cool atmosphere for whatever you're doing, whether it's, gaming together, whether it's educational purposes or team collaboration. It's just a really fun environment for collaborating.
This is very interesting, man. This is real nice.
Oh, it's my pleasure, brother. I'm really glad you got to jump in with me.
Yeah, thanks. Well, I'm going to get off here. I know you guys are busy.
Yes, sir.
Well, again, thank you guys. And then if there's anything I can do to help you guys, when I tell you that Passage is my favorite network on Cosmos, that's kind of an understatement. Like,
oh, I love that, brother.
Between you guys and Crypto Dungeons and Cos.
Great people.
Those three are my favorite. And it's just like, to have you guys, do an interview with me like this is pretty awesome, man. Seriously.
Oh, it's my pleasure, brother. I'm so glad to do it. And we're in good company, man, because the Crypto Dungeons folks and the Akash folks are just super honest builders trying to make something valuable for the community. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah. All right, Lex. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. God bless you, brother.
God bless you.
Peace.
Mm-hmm.